We are a blended family.
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 We're a blended family.
We are a blended family.
We are a blended family.
We are a blended family.
And we are a blended family. Hi, we're Doctors Larry and Carol Snap. We're glad to have you with us today, this afternoon here in Phoenix, Arizona. All right, we are Doctors Larry and Carol Snap. I'm Larry, she's Carol. We've been the founders of Blended Families Ministry. We started it here at this church. It's 2009, so it's 9 years ago, I guess. We've been teaching it since then. Like Carol had said a little earlier, we started with like a post-marital curriculum for blended families. It's like, too late now, how do you work with this? And then the church asked us to do something for pre-marital.
For blended.
So people know where the landmines are and they don't have to step on all of them. And then, so a couple of years after that, people were asking, hey, do you guys have anything for divorce? No. Well, they came to us and we put together something specifically for a 10-week thing that the church was doing. So it's a 10-week course. Everything else is 12. But it's, to me, I think it's interesting. It all came backwards, post, pre, and after divorce, right? But as far as we'll tailor this to like what pastors need to do in their community to try to address the blended families. Because most churches, probably somewhere in the 40% range, are currently a blended family. That doesn't even count the people that are from one, right? They might be on their first and only marriage, but they might have come from a blended family, so they still have some of those things they need to deal with. So we want to talk some about what would be available, through the tools that we have. Our goal is to teach the teachers, right?
You might say a little bit about us.
I don't know about us. Oh, well. So we've been married 38 years. I inherited 3 kids, 2 teenagers and a 4-year-old. And that was 38 years ago, last December. 23 years, we didn't do any kind of church stuff. That wasn't part of our life. And then it all fell apart. Got selfish, got stupid. Yeah, in that order. So I get that backwards sometimes. But a friend of ours was a marriage counselor through one of the ministries that was based here, marriage ministries. So he hooked us up. We got some Christian counseling, got involved in the ministry that they had, which was NAME. Some of you probably know that, National Association for Marriage Enhancement. We got, our counselors were the directors, and so they were awesome. And they just loved us through a big mess, like 4 months of hell. But through several years of going to the class that they had every Sunday, and then becoming volunteers, and 5 years worth of marriage counseling, we kept seeing patterns and more non-first marriages and all the same problems. So we went to our pastor. And back then they used to say, yeah, we got 270 some odd ministries here at the church. They didn't have one for blended families. Out of all those, all right, they had marriage, but not second or third or fourth type thing. So, and it's totally different, as I'm sure most of you know. So we decided to, we didn't decide, we felt led because of seeing the same mistakes over and over and over and over again, that we should write some of this stuff down and then put together a class, try to help these people get it in their head. There's a process and a good way to do this that works. And it's not just everybody bumping heads all the time. So Post-marital came first, then the premarital, then what we call beyond divorce to try to get people healed up and whole again before they try to do anything else. It's too many times we see people just jump from one mess to another, right? So what we try to do is educate people on, what we call God's relationship priority pyramid that we have here. That's the foundational bedrock for our ministry. And whenever we counsel anybody, we listen. What's their problem? Or, it's always communication and then something else. We look to see what's out of order according to that. Something is. And when we can identify and explain why it needs to be that way, then, okay, well, that starts making sense.
Can we talk about BC?
Sure.
Before Carol came into Larry's life, I was divorced twice. And 2 terrible marriages. My first one was bad enough, and my second one was even worse. And my second husband had molested all 3 of my children. I did not want to get married again. And I was told over and over again, who would want you being married twice, failed marriages twice, and 3 children? God told me there was somebody that he had for me. And I said, well, you're going to have to bring him to me because I'm not going out there looking. And so the night that Larry and I met, which we still celebrate the night that we met. What night was that, Larry? What date? Oh,
June 28th.
Yep. We still celebrate that night because I said, well, God, you're going to have to move the rock because I'm not even going to pull it away. I'm exhausted. And it was a friend of ours and a friend of mine and Larry's friend that they both went on the dance floor and we were standing face to face. But I just knew something was different right then and there. And her and I had planned to say we were, made up this story with stewardesses were just passing through and all that, And then she went out dancing with Larry's friend.
We met at a disco.
At a disco. And she came off the dance floor and heard me spilling my guts to Larry. She was furious. What are you doing? Because she had already told her friend the plan, right? And but I just felt so comfortable. I felt I'd known Larry all my life. And when we dated for 6 months and then we got married. But when we went to the priest, I was brought up Catholic, and I asked if we could be married in the church. He said, sure, but bring your divorce decree. I want to see the paper. And I fine. So when I go in there, I had 2 papers. And he said, does he know you were divorced twice? I said, Father, of course he does. I wouldn't lie to him, but it was so funny. And I said, so what should I wear? And he said, well, you can wear whatever you want because you never got married in the Catholic Church. I thought, so I can wear a white gown. And then my kids are purely acts of God, right? All 3 kids. So he was super. But Larry and I had some challenges. He'd never had any children. And he was an instant stepdad. Like you said, a 4-year-old little girl, a 15-year-old son, and a 17-year-old daughter they'd all been molested. So he's trying to rebuild trust not only with me, and me being a single mom, passing slowly the reins that a husband should have, because we didn't know all the Christian reins at that time, because we weren't really Christian, and I did not want to force him to go to the Catholic Church. He didn't like the Catholic Church. And I thought, well, all right, I'll pray to God wherever I am. That's how I was brought up. And then for 23 years it worked.
More or less.
Yep. And then it blew up when our youngest one went to college. It's like the empty syndrome.
Empty nest.
Yep. He figured I'd helped her bring those kids up. Now it's my turn. And I was sick, and I have been sick. The enemy does not want me teaching and doing this curriculum. I've had 20 surgeries and 4 different types of cancer. Getting ready to have radiation again on my nose. And anyway, so that's a little bit of where I'm coming from. Larry's life was a Leave It to Beaver. Perfect little mom, perfect dad, no brother or sister until he was 14. Then he had a little sister. And they never had any worries of money or anything like that. I mean, and my dad drank all the time. They argued all the time. I knew everything a marriage shouldn't be, and yet the first two was exactly what I chose. And then I finally started listening to God. And I got it right. And then the devil tried to come in and steal what we had. And as we tell the story, you know, he come in the house, but he thought Larry was in there alone. Then I got to close the door and deal with him. And we both fought him off. And that's where this curricula came from. We knew that blended families needed help. And we are to teach one man, one woman, one child, restore one home at a time, get his values back in the home, and let them teach their friends, their families. And God said, take this global. And we've been taking it global. And we didn't think we would physically have to take it global, but we did go to England and taught 100. We did a whole marriage seminar. We thought we were one of the speakers. We were the speaker for 4 days. We had 100 couples from Ghana, Africa over there, and that was wonderful. But anyway, that's a little bit about why we do this. And like Larry said, we were given it backwards. We first were given the children's book. I had always wanted to write a children's book, and God knew that. And this is before any of the ministry. And God says, you will sit down today and write a children's book. I said, okay, fine. I was thinking like Mother Goose or something like that. But he said, you will write a book for a child that's ages 9 to 17 for a boy or a girl and help them get through a week of abuse. I said, wow, I'm still healing from that, Lord. I don't know how I'm going to do that. But I did. I wrote the whole thing in a day. And the first publishing we did was 250 copies. We gave a lot away to orphanages because overseas, there are girls who are even younger than 9 that are abused. And then I know firsthand that more abuse comes from blended families. So that's the darker side, and we have chapters for the darker side and then the bright side. But that's a little bit more about the history, and I'll let Larry get into the other teachers. Thank you for letting me talk about BC.
How are your children now?
Huh?
The older ones in their 50s.
How are they now?
How are they? No, the 2 older ones still have their issues.
Yeah, they still have challenges. The other one is
the younger one, you know, I came along, and from my perspective, it was like, well, 17 and 15, they'll be around 2-3 years. They'll be out. The little one, I could be dad, right? She calls me dad. The other 2 don't call me, right? But if they do, they call me Larry. So that's fine. And I didn't intend to be dad. I just wanted to be like a positive influence. That was my goal. But there's some definite spiritual warfare going on there still from 50 years ago.
And they know what we teach on, and that brings up, why are you telling people about us? So that kind of is hurtful, and we understand that part.
Yeah, so, I think, y'all know anytime you're doing any kind of ministry, you're going to be attacked, right? So what we've discovered is once we survive the attack on us, then it was all about the kids being attacked or being the tool against us, right? So we had 4 months of intense spiritual warfare going on, trying to keep us from anything that we would have done. Like I said, our counselors were awesome, and we call them all hours of the day and night, and they just love on us and pray with us, and you can do it. They gave us hope, which we didn't have. And so that's what we learned in the beginning when we started being volunteers is our job was to instill hope, right? We weren't doctors, medical doctors. We were not psychiatrists or anything. We're not there to diagnose weird stuff that happened when you were a kid and all that kind of stuff. We just speak the word and love on people and let them know you care and just give them hope. And that's what we were called to do. But like I said, so many of the people were not, it's God, right? This is what we know. It's my first marriage, but her third. And so I could see how things work supposedly from the first marriage perspective, covenant and all that kind of stuff. And she had been there, done that with all the crap that people have to deal with, nasty exes and so forth. So it was a pretty good combination. He said, all the things not to do, things the way it's supposed to be. It's a pretty good combination. But, it was interesting how it kind of all flowed together. And we were like, we'd be working with 10 or 12 different couples a month, right? So we were pretty busy. And we're just volunteers. And eventually, one of the pastors here gave us a promotion from volunteer to non-paid staff. So, that was like, all right, our salary just doubled. 2 times 0, 0, yay. So, we liked what we were doing. We were getting results. Been there, done that, man. We survived. And very transparent, we explained to people how ugly it was for us. And they came in, oh, you wouldn't believe what we're going. Oh, yeah, we would. Been there, done that, and lived, right? So, and ministry was never on our radar. Like I said, we did 23 years of marriage, didn't go to church, didn't do nothing. And then when we had to, it was like, oh, this stuff works. And for me personally, it was, for those who are in Christ, you're a new creation. Oh, wow. I don't want to be what I did the rest of my life. Sign me up. And doors just started opening after that. So, again, that's enough about us. I would like to spend a little bit of time on each one of the curriculums, starting with Beyond Divorce. We have anywhere from 5 to 20 people in a class. We never know how many it's going to be.
And God gave us this cover. He's tearful because he hates divorce. And he showed us to break the wedding picture apart and no face anymore, because they don't exist anymore as a couple. But yet he's right there to show you what the next step is. And it's just amazing how God would tell us, okay, this book you do, and this is what you do. And I had a gal from another church design this. I called her and told her on the phone what I wanted, and she hadn't even seen any of this. And I was just describing it on the phone. And about a half hour later, she said, I'm going to send you a sample of what I think you're telling me. She got it. I couldn't believe it. And she didn't even know me that well. But it was just amazing. And then she said, well, what color do you want the book to be? I said, I don't know. Let me pray on it and I'll get back to you. And he wanted gray with blue. Oh, man, great. And these, the other curriculums, the 3 rings, God gave us that, as I think I told you, or we told you when you first come in, some of you, that we wrote this first. So we just had 2 chapters and we had the cover. And we went to Pastor Tommy and told them about this ministry that we would like to do here at the church. And the circles is what God gave us, these 3 circles. But Larry, there's several things they mean. Would you tell them real quick?
Well, it kind of represents the Trinity, but it's also like yours, mine, and ours, So there's a whole bunch of different things.
And blended families ministry.
That worked, right? 3 things, blended families ministry. But the biggest thing for me was the Trinity and, the whole yours, mine, and ours kind of thing. So it all kind of fit together.
And then the bigger thing was that the 2 wedding rings, the husband's ring and the wife's ring, but those are held together by the 3rd ring that's supposed to represent the children.
Yeah. So, it was just a little bit about Beyond Divorce. we had seen so many couples that had gone through a divorce. Carol had been there twice. And so again, like I said, we started seeing these patterns. We had some people come in and they felt like they had like 100 different things wrong. And, okay, well, tell us about it. And then after we hear a bunch of it, it's like, oh, you got like 4 things. Oh, we can deal with 4,
But the fact from different things.
Yeah, the thought that they might have had 100 different, it was overwhelming. And they just felt defeated from the get-go. 4, okay, yeah, we can deal with that. But we just realized too many people didn't do the first one right, but they didn't fix anything. They just moved on with somebody else, somewhere else, same old person. So what this curriculum is all about is making sure you understand you. This is about you. It's not about the ex. One guy went through this after 10 weeks. Week 10 is just basically an essay to see what y'all got from the class. And this guy was like, I've been with you people for like 10 weeks. I don't know anything about your exes. And we understand that some other divorce things, it's like slamming the ex. That's basically all they do. It's not about them. That's them. You're you. And so we want you to understand first what's a marriage covenant supposed to be, right? If we're lucky, we'll get a couple that's still married that comes through this, and then
we have saved some marriages.
They'll realize, oh, I don't want to do that, and then we can work with that. But most everybody's it's already done, and the people that this ministry ministers to are the people that got thrown away.
The ones that didn't want the divorce.
These are the people
the ones that are in the class.
Didn't even see it coming a lot of times. But they're the ones that were abused. They're the ones that were abandoned. They were the ones that were cheated on and then left. Right? The people that wanted the divorce, they never show up. This is not for them. But we talk about the covenant. We talk about the fact that, yes, God hates divorce. But why? Why does he hate it? One of my mentors pointed out a scripture to me. It was Jeremiah 3:8-10, where because of Israel's harlotry, Israel being his bride, he had to give Israel a certificate of divorce because he's holy. He couldn't deal with that. So, yeah, God hates it because he's been there, done that. So, some people, not everybody, but some people just see, it's like one of those unforgivable sins, but they need to realize God hates it because he's been there. He understands it. And we've had people just freed up just from that. It's setting people free from that spiritual baggage, the spiritual warfare, that bondage that it can put people in. We want to, that's the very first place we start, is talking about the covenant and why God hates divorce. Then we want to make sure that each person realizes, I like food, so we talk about a divorce pie. And you get a slice. You don't get the whole pie. There's part of it that you have to own. And you deal with that part. The other person has to deal with their part. You don't deal with their part, you deal with yours.
And it's never 100% like the guys like to make you think it's all your fault. We got divorced. No, sorry, it's not.
Yeah, there's always something we could do better.
Right.
So there's always a little piece of the pie that each individual has to claim ownership to and accept the responsibility for it. Because then you can confess and repent and get forgiveness for it and get freed up, right? And then from then, it's just all about realigning vertically with God for you, right? You're not trying to fix the other party. You're just working on you and God. This is taking time to heal, getting yourself forgiven. A lot of people have trouble forgiving themselves. Forgiveness is chapter 3. So it's marriage covenant, accepting responsibility for your part, and then forgiveness. And forgiveness is a big one.
And in our book, we have examples what we do, because we like to bring in props People really understand and get a lot more when they see the props. We bring in a backpack. We put names and offenses in a backpack.
On rocks.
On rocks, and let them know, hey, until you can forgive these issues or these people, you're not going to be freed up. You have to let it go. And then we also bring balloons in, and we go around the class and let them write names or offenses, and we all go outside and release them. And we tell them, you're not letting that person off the hook. We're giving them to God. They're going up to God, but they're getting off of your backs. And just seeing those balloons releases things that's unreal. So we've learned these things ourselves over the years, and that's kind of what we do, and we know they work, so we keep using it. One guy we had that was in the Beyond Divorce class, he had a balloon, and he wrote out a couple of things real quick. And at the end of the class, well, we didn't know this until the next week.
Right.
He came in and he said, he says, I got to share something that I didn't tell everybody all the whole truth last week. He said, I wrote my things on the balloon and I went outside and I released it. But when I finished the class, my balloon was hung up in the tree. And he says, seriously, God? Because there was one more thing he should have written on the balloon. So he wrote it on the balloon, he carried it all the way up to the prayer pavilion, and then he finally let it go up there. But it's really powerful, just that one little thing. But we try to think of things like that will be more meaningful to people in the class. And then from there they go to the blended family class. And then if they meet somebody or their life they feel is back on track, then hey, I met somebody, I need to go through the premarital. Can you help me with that?
Yeah. So Beyond Divorce is really just about trying to get somebody healed and whole again. That's the goal. As you all know, God likes to multiply, so he wants to multiply a whole one times a whole one, and then he has one flesh, right? If two less than whole people try to put something together, it's like two vacuum cleaners. They're just sucking the life out of each other, right? So we want to try to get people whole again. There was one gal in a wheelchair that came in, had fought coming for like 2 semesters. So she finally showed up. And again, we're talking about the covenant and God hates divorce and all that kind of stuff in the very first class. And she stuck around after. She was so stuck on the Malachi scripture that God hates divorce. And this has been like 9 years. She's been back and forth with separated, I guess. And this guy had just told her, because she ended up in a wheelchair, that the best thing for the kids and myself is for you to die. She had that on her, right? So she came and she stuck around, and we went through a lot of the why God hates divorce, right? And the Jeremiah scripture and everything. It's like, oh. You could tell the light came on, right? The next week, or just Tuesday. That was Tuesday. It was like the next Sunday, she was in the other class, and she came in. She had this big old grin on her face. She went to some kind of therapy and actually stood up.
For the first time. She said, it's like God released me. Like that's what I was supposed to do.
No, she's still in the chair, but that was just such a weight that was lifted right then. That was amazing. Obviously, it doesn't do that for everybody, but we want people to get freed up. And then they can move on. If you're still stuck to whatever's in the past, right, you can't move on. So, you get whole, and then God is able to bring someone into your life. So, in the Beyond Divorce, we always talk about don't go hunting, right? If you're hunting, God's not in it. Just allow him, focus on your vertical, and God will arrange for somebody to show up, and it's like, oh, look at that.
But it's always in God's timing. It's not your timing necessarily, and that could mean that the person he's going to connect you to isn't ready. Maybe they have to go through a growth spot as well.
Yeah, we had somebody at the Pre-Marital that same church, they were very active. For 3 years, they were both doing this, never even noticed each other. And then one day, boom. and they dated for a little while. They came to the thing.
The premarital
The premarital.
class.
We do a seminar, like an all-day thing. We do it couple to couple also, but they came to the thing up here, and like 7 o'clock later that night, we're just at home on the couch, checking Facebook. So got married. We're like, what?
They were just at
You
our
were just at the
class today.
seminar. So they had called their pastor at lunch and said, yeah, we know this is it. This is us. We're going to do this. And they made arrangements to get married that night.
Because the premarital, we tell them you have to get the confirmation from God. You're with the person you're supposed to be with. If this person is really from God, He will confirm to you that this is who you should be with. And they said, we got so many confirmations that day. At lunch, we called them and we said, we're probably going to come there after the class at 4 o'clock and we'll need you to marry us. And they just kind of laughed it off. But when we finished at 4, they called them and they went over and they got married. And when we do the premarital, the one-day thing, we always have them come in and talk to the newly people that are engaged and getting ready to get married, because it's just a testimony. We never would have thought that, but they're awesome, and their leaders in their church, they're just doing great.
Christian living, Christian living. Christian Living Radio. It's a lifestyle. Christian living, Christian living. Christian Living Radio. It's a lifestyle.
Christian Living Radio, spreading the good news of Jesus Christ 24/7. Our goal is to bring you a life-changing word through music and diverse programming, like the one you're listening to now. Pastor Kenyatta Goins is the visionary of Christian Living Radio, and he's dedicated to the idea that Christians should even have a more prominent presence in the marketplaces. Maybe you need prayer for yourself and or your family, maybe for a friend. We'd be privileged to stand in the gap for you. If you're listening to this broadcast, click on the Contact Us tab and send us your prayer request. We'd also like to hear from you if you have something on your mind, or just give us some feedback. We support many ministries, so maybe you'd like to make a one-time or a monthly recurring donation. We believe that when you sow into these ministries, you'll indeed be blessed. And of course, if you sow into this show in particular, we believe that it's a blessing for you, so please consider sponsoring us. There's a special area under the Donate tab where you can send your monetary gift, or call 520-812-6363. That's 520-812-6363 to receive more information about sponsorship. Thank you.